Hello, 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 my sisters in ministry out there. It is Reverend Jocelyn here, and I am excited today to be interviewing another impact woman. That's right. This is a sister who is creating such a movement around the work that she's doing for the kingdom of God. And I'm grateful to have her on the show today. And we do this show live because we want this to be an opportunity for those who are watching to engage our guests, to ask questions, to learn more. And so, if you are watching right now live, this is what I want you to do. I invite you to put a comment in the chat so we know that you are here. And if at any point you have a question for Pastor Darlene, who is our special guest for this evening, about her process of writing a children's book, please go ahead and put that question in the chat and then we can engage you because you're part of this live show that we have here. So, again, my name is Reverend Jocelyn, and I am the founder of Women in the Ministry, which is on mission to help women to not only start, but grow and sustain transformative ministries beyond the walls of the church. And this can be a ministry that you might find in the form of a nonprofit. You might be called to be a life coach, a speaker, an author. In whatever way God is calling you to, you are on mission to make an impact in the lives of others. And so through this process, I'm excited again to interview a woman named Pastor Darlene Thorne on our show today who is doing just that. She is creating impact. And I see in the chat Robinson 032. Hi, so excited to be here. We're excited to have you here too. Thank you for joining us. Again, I see we have a couple people watching live. Please let us know who you are so we can give you a shout out. But Kimberly, present, excited. Good to see you, Kimberly. All right. So today I'm going to go ahead and introduce Pastor Darlene, who is a devoted wife, mother, author, speaker, coach, and mentor. Her life is deeply rooted in faith, family, and community. Darlene and her husband, Pastor Kevin Thorne, lead Renewal Community Church in Clayton, North Carolina. And as the CEO of A Heart After the Father, LLC, Darlene guides women caregivers in holistic self care. She developed the Refresh, Refill, and Renew framework, which empowers women to prioritize self care and overcome guilt, enabling them to thrive in all areas of life. Her coaching focuses on helping caregiving entrepreneurs establish sustainable self care routines. And she does this in so many ways, including her new book. And so, Pastor Darlene, I am grateful to have you on the show. Welcome, and thank you for accepting my invitation.
Oh man, this is so great. I'm super excited to be here.
Yes. Well, I am grateful to have you because first, you have a very important ministry that you do around the ministry of caregiving, and I can't tell you how many caregivers I encounter in the work that I do. And I know we're going to talk about your children's book, but if you could talk a little bit about your background as a caregiver, why you are so passionate about this work.
Well, it was October 5th, 1985, where I made one of the best decisions in my life. I married my friend. My husband Kevin and I got married on that day and it was amazing. We vowed to do life together on so many levels. And our children, we were planning to have children, we were planning to travel and all of these things. And we did just that. Had children, we traveled, we did so many things. And when our children grew up and went on their way, we sat down and made a list of the next things we were going to do for phase two of our lives. However, it was on November 15th, 2019, that changed the trajectory of our future. I remember going to get my hair done and I was getting ready to say, "Honey, I'll see you later. I'll see you when I get back." And I didn't hear him respond. I saw his sneakers. They were on the floor in the living room, so I knew he hadn't left to go outside, take his usual walk on Friday morning. But I found him in the bathroom, almost unresponsive. When I caught my breath and calmed myself, I called 911, and when they came, and they took his blood pressure. It was through the roof. And I remember him being wheeled off to the hospital, and I'm coming behind him, but I heard a voice in my head. The Spirit of the Lord said to me, this sickness is not unto death. And it was at that point, I had no idea then, but that was the day I became his 100% primary caregiver. I advocated for him while he was in the hospital on so many levels. And when he came home, he and I started a whole new life together. And it took me on another journey where I began to post live where we were and what we were doing, walking in the neighborhood, watching, people were watching him getting his exercise, watching him as he was progressing. And they were asking me, how do you do this? You look so happy. You look so at ease. You don't look stressed. How do you do this? And that's when the Lord laid on my heart. He said, you need to coach women. You need to support them and show them how they too can do what they've been called to do and be the caregiver for those that they are caring for. And then over time, the Lord began to reveal to me that there are caregivers on so many levels. And I get to walk this road with my husband, and we get to do life together. I remember praying a long time ago before he even had the stroke. I prayed because he was working so hard. I prayed and asked the Lord. I said, God, I really want us to be able to spend more time together. Well, let me tell you, these past 5 years, we have traveled more. We have done ministry more. We have done so many more things in these past 5 years together than in all of the 39 years going on 40 years that we've been married.
Wow. Powerful. Pastor Darlene, I'm learning the importance of language. And I notice that you use the language, I get to do these things. Not have to, not as a chore, but I get the opportunity to do that. And I think that's vitally important. And that's intentional, I believe,
Oh,
when you
very.
say that.
Our verbiage is very intentional. We've learned by one of our fellow coaches who says
Yes.
our
Yes.
verbiage is extremely important. I wish, I might, we won't. But I am, I will, I shall, I have, we shall. Our verbiage is very important. Everything we say after the word I am is true.
Yes, it is.
That's what we say.
Mhm.
There was a coach that said, when we argue for our limitations, we get to keep them.
Mm, mm, mm.
So you want to argue for your limitations? Have them, because that's what you really want. But because I get to do life with my husband, Kevin Eugene Thorne Sr., Pastor Kevin Eugene Thorne Sr., it is a journey of a lifetime. Now, I didn't sign up for it. I didn't ask for it. However, on October 5th in 1985, I did say for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health.
Mm.
I made a
Mhm.
promise. I made a vow, and I'm keeping that vow.
That is beautiful, Pastor Darlene. And might I say, when I met you at a conference a couple months ago, the joy that you had as I watched you and Pastor Kevin, and it was there, it was evident. And I admire that, which is why I'm very excited for what you're doing and now what has become your ministry. Sometimes our ministries are birthed from life's challenges, and you answered that call, and you're now doing work through refresh,
Mm.
refill, and renew your framework to help
Yes,
others. Talk a little bit more about that.
absolutely. What I've been able to do is those overworked and stressed out caregivers, they hire me to show them how to prioritize themselves and to be able to manage their time well. I work with them to develop their own personal blueprint that walks them through the process of caring for their loved ones, caring for their businesses, but also caring for themselves because you have to. I think we hear it all the time when we get on the plane. You must put your mask on first before assisting someone else. And that's what I when I wake up in the morning, I get to do it every day. Every day I go live, I get to encourage someone. Every day I'm walking with my husband through the grocery store and I have had people come to me that do not know me, do not know my husband, but they see us walking in the store together. One woman literally she says, "I know you don't know me and I hope you don't think I'm weird, but I just love the way you're loving on your husband."
Isn't that ministry?
All day long.
Mm,
Every
I
day.
love it. Every day, every day we're walking witness. That is beautiful. And so you developed this ministry, and then somewhere along the way, God put it on your heart to write a children's book that
Oh
is
my
kinda along the
goodness.
themes of this. So let's talk about this. Where did this come from?
It came from 2 things. First, I was I am, not was, I am a part of a hub communion group where every day, and it's on Clubhouse, every day we meet 6 a.m. and we take communion because I believe in starting my day communing with the Father. And in that room, there's a young lady who has been scribing and God had given her some things and she had been a part of an anthology that I had done last year. And God had already told her that she was going to write more books. And so she put out a challenge. How many of you would like to write a children's book? And I was thinking, well, yeah, I'd like to write a children's book, but what would I write about? I had no clue that this was a thing. And then it happened. I'm sitting and I'm thinking, what can I write about, Holy Spirit? And he said, children can be caregivers too. Ooh!
That's it right there.
I was
Mhm.
floored. But then you know what he did? He reminded me of me. He said, remember when you were about 8 or 9 years old and you would get off the bus and go home and you would rush to do your homework? Where did you want to go after you finished your homework? You wanted to run up the street to Van Buren Avenue to go see your grandma Baldwin. And you went over to her house and you would help her clean her bathroom. You would help her cook her meals. You would help her when she went grocery shopping. Write about that. And there was birthed Grandma's Little Helper.
Yes, your new children's book. That is a number 1 bestseller right now on Amazon, just released, new release, number 1 new release. Congrats. Talk about that process for you in terms of developing the children's book, because I actually think that right now we have some aspiring authors, some I think are watching who want to write a children's book and would love to learn more about that process. So talk about that, and if you're watching live, you get to ask questions, so we're looking at the chat, so please ask Pastor Darlene, but let's hear about your process, Pastor Darlene.
Well, let me tell you, the process was I went and I joined the challenge. And when I joined the challenge, she literally walked us through what we're supposed to do. And the first thing is like I sat it with Holy Spirit and said, "What's the idea, Father? What do you want me to say? How do you want me to write it? What's the storyline?" And then there were tips, there were tools that she gave us that we would implement that helped us to not only craft the story, but then you craft all of the pages where you have the beautiful pictures, and then you walk through the process of getting it on Amazon, and then from going to Amazon you get it published and you launch, and like me, number one bestseller.
You make it sound so simple, though.
You know what? It is simple when you put your mind to it.
Say more.
Well, the thing is, when you get started and you're realizing, wait a minute, this can be for real, there's an excitement that rises up, and you're like, wait a minute, hold up. We're really doing this. And there is like, and then when you recognize that you're not doing what you're doing for you, that's
Right,
something that we have to take into consideration, that what we're doing is not for ourselves. What we're doing is going to help someone else. The curator of the challenge, she wrote a children's book, and her children's book was it was called oh goodness, just because I want to, it's glitter. That's the first word that comes to mind. I've got to pull it up while I'm talking to you. But anyway, while she had this book, at the back of the book, oh my
mm,
goodness, it gives you an opportunity to lead someone to Christ. And then there are lines on there where they can write in their names of their friends that come to Jesus.
that's beautiful. Come on.
Let me tell you, this woman, Shanice, is amazing. And so when she showed us, Heavenly Glitter is the name of the book.
Mhm.
And when she was talking about how God's always with us, and you know how sometimes, and I've seen it, and you've probably seen it, that glitter just kind of shows up somewhere.
Yes.
It's just saying that God's always with us, that we're never alone. And so she was writing this book, and we all got so excited because we were like, okay, well, God, what do you want me to write about? And as I began to sit and think about what God wanted me to write about, let me tell you what happened after I finished and I published that book. A myriad of other ideas for other children's books came from that. I'm
Mm.
presently working on another children's book. The first one, Grandma's Little Helper, is about a little girl with her grandmother. This second book that I'm writing is about a little boy with his grandfather. And they walk through the the life about the grandfather who served as a um, what do I have? Oh, I have it listed where he has been walking through and serving during the civil rights movement. This book talks about the coming together and building legacy between the grandfather and the grandson, building legacy, understanding history, and in the meantime, that young boy is helping his grandfather walk through the process of remembering. Some of our older generation are experiencing memory loss, dementia, Alzheimer's, those types of things. And I don't want to give it all away, but there's some things that this little boy does that helps his grandfather to remember. All of these things are in line with the caregiving process. So not only are little girls caregivers, but there are boys who are caregivers, just as in our caregiving community there are male caregivers who are caring for their wives, who are caring for their children, who are caring for their parents.
Mhm.
We cannot forget that there are male caregivers just as much as there are female caregivers.
Very true, Pastor Darlene. And as I listen to you, this all ties in. And you see how taking one step, you're building upon it, and now you have another book in mind and probably other books after that, and it's
I do.
all in response to I know. It's all a matter of you saying yes to what God is leading you as an extension of your ministry, and those who are watching right now are primarily our sisters who are called to ministry, and one of the things that they might be interested in doing is writing a book. It might be a children's book, it might be a book for an adult. Regardless of what they might be called to do, I just want to ask you, what words of encouragement would you offer someone who's listening right now who is wrestling with the idea of saying yes to that next thing?
I don't know if you want me to really tell you that.
I asked the question though, so I guess if you step on some toes, they'll be all right. They can
I
rub their
hope
toes.
so. I hope so. Um, for those of you who are wrestling, you will lose.
You'll lose the wrestling match with God, is what you're saying.
You're gonna lose the wrestling match with God. So I wanna encourage you. I invite you to say yes. Just as Mary said to the angel. See, remember, when Mary was approached by the angel, Mary was not surprised that an angel would show up. It never said that she was afraid of the angel. It never spoke of anything that she was feeling uncomfortable that the angel even showed up. The question she asked, for clarity's sake, and because of who she was, she said, how can these things be, seeing that I know not a man? What she said was, how is this going to happen? Because I'm not getting with Joseph
Mm.
before we get married, because I know better. So you're going to have to tell me another way. She asked the question, got clarity, and then she said, be it unto me according to thy word. If we just say, God, how's this going to be? I can guarantee you, he will at least give you a a blueprint of what it's going to look like. But recognize this, he may show you the big picture and he will show you exactly what the end result will be. However, his expectation from you is a mere yes. And yes is only conception.
Say that again. Break that down. Yes, it's only conception. Say more.
When we conceive a child, we do not give birth the next day. As a matter of fact, we don't even recognize that we are really
Mm,
pregnant.
mhm.
Only someone who is very familiar and very discerning of what a pregnant woman looks like would be able to tell you that you were pregnant. I give you my pregnancy.
Mm.
I went to my husband and I were now living in Chicago. We came back from Chicago to Massachusetts because a good friend of ours was being installed as pastor. And we went to that installation and we were so excited. We were shouting and just rejoicing and excited that this is what God had done. And my mother in law comes to me and she pulls me aside and she says, Darlene, are you pregnant? And I said, no, I ain't pregnant. No. And she looked at me and she said, yes, you are.
Mm.
And when I got home, I went and took a pregnancy test, and lo and behold, I was. Now, my mother in law was a nurse. My mother in law is a very discerning woman because she's in the field of medicine and she is a nurse and she recognizes certain things. There are people that recognize the gift that you carry that you may not even see that it's come to fruition, but they will call it out of you.
That's right.
So when you say yes, that is merely conception, and not a whole lot of people know except those who are very discerning. And those people who are very discerning are going to be the ones that are going to pull you aside and ask you, hey, sis, what are you pregnant with? And those are the ones that'll be able to walk with you through that process because they see it, they know it. And once you've said yes, you open the floodgates for all that you need, all the provision that is necessary for you to give birth properly, because now you have given permission for God to do everything He wants to do in and through you. He sends it to you because with Mary, when she said yes, guess where she went? To see Elizabeth.
Mhm.
God makes no mistake. All He asks for is our yes.
That is good. You just gave a message right there, ladies. If you're watching right now, I hope you're catching it. I hope you're catching it because some of you all are pregnant. But we need to make sure, as our sister, Pastor Darlene, so eloquently said, that we have the right people around us who will cover us in prayer, who will help us to give birth to that vision. And this is why, Pastor Darlene, this is why I formed the women in the ministry community, because I know that sisters are called to ministry. Their ministries expand beyond the walls of the church, and they are
Yes.
looking for support. They're looking for prayer warriors who will cover them. They're looking for resources. They're looking for community, and this is what we need when we are giving birth to something new, especially something that is given to us by God. And so, sister, if you are watching right now and you know that you are called to create a ministry, or I call it kingdom business of some sort, maybe a nonprofit, maybe you're called to speak on stages, write a book, whatever that thing is, I encourage you to visit our Women in the Ministry website to learn more about how you can get involved in our community so that we can walk with you, we can support you, and help you to take that next step. But
Mm.
Pastor Darlene, you just preached a message right now. I don't even know how to finish after that. I mean, I think that the chat is probably blowing up. She dropped a sermon right there, is what someone said. That's right. That's right. But Pastor Pastor Darlene, let's just share, how can people get a copy of your wonderful book? How can they do that?
Well, they can go right to Amazon.com. I'm sure we can put that in
I'll put that
our
in the chat.
our chat
Mhm.
here, and if and they can go directly to Amazon. Right now, it is in Kindle. We are yet in process this week. Oh my goodness, this week I am working on putting this book in paperback. So it's going to be available by the end of the month in paperback. And God has already, because, and this is a testament and testimony, because I said yes. God already, they're already lining up. People are waiting for the paperback because they want me to take it into their schools.
Mhm.
Let me tell
Amen.
you, when you say yes, doors swing wide open.
Yes, they do. When you say yes. Pastor
Mhm.
Darlene, thank you for saying yes. Thank you for saying yes in a number of ways to God's calling on your life, for starting this ministry, for writing the children's book, and I'll say books plural, and for saying yes to my invitation to join us on this conversation today. And those who are watching live, I want you to do me a favor and show Pastor Darlene some love in the chat. But secondly, you might know of a caregiver, you might know of someone who can benefit from watching this interview, and I want you to share it with them. Don't keep all this good information to yourself. Share the love.
Share the love.
So, so that others can be blessed. Kimberly says, when you say yes, what a powerful message. I know that you
Mm.
bless those who are watching live and those who are going to watch the replay. Pastor Darlene, you are a blessing to this world.
Oh,
You are a
thank
light to this world, and I'm grateful for you and Pastor Kevin and for what you do and what you stand for. So thank you for giving a little bit of your time with us today, and I definitely believe that God's gonna give it back tenfold. Those who
you.
are watching, you be sure to get a copy of the book and be on the lookout for the paperback book in a
Mhm.
couple weeks as it gets
Mhm.
released. I know
Yeah.
it's gonna be a real blessing to anyone who gets their hands on it.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been my pleasure to serve.
Yes, 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 yes. And I tell you all, Pastor Darlene and I just had a conversation earlier today. I did an interview with her on my podcast, Faith on the Journey, where we talk about healing from a friendship breakup, healing from painful experiences with our friend groups. And so that will be released in just a couple weeks, and we'll make sure to add that to the show notes when that is released. But for right now, be sure to connect with Pastor Darlene. I'll make sure that we add to the comments a little later how you can connect with her beyond just Amazon book, but she is a sister who is dynamic. And so I'm grateful to have her on the show, and I hope that you take forward what she said and you say yes to the call. And so if you were blessed by today and this is your first time watching, you don't want it to be your last now. Be sure to subscribe to our new YouTube channel, because here you'll find information that supports women such as yourself in building impactful ministries. I'm talking about transformational ministries to change the world. So slam that subscribe button, share this with a friend, and I look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same channel. We do this live to encourage you to build the ministry that God has put on your heart. And so I thank you for tuning in to today's episode of An Impact Woman Doing Her Thing. And again, my name is Reverend Jocelyn. I can't wait to see you soon. My dear sister, God bless you. Have a great evening.